Hi, guys. Welcome to our daily encounter. One of the things that the scriptures are very clear about is the temporary nature of this life as we know it. This is due to the fact that we ourselves are temporary, and these bodies that we have, they are in their present state temporary. 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 24 says, "All flesh is like grass, and all its glory like the flower of grass. The grass withers and the flower falls off." And so we know that our flesh is like flowers that are here today and gone tomorrow. But also the world itself is temporary. And we read about that in Hebrews chapter 1 in verse 10, where it says, "You, Lord, in the beginning laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the works of your hands. They will perish, but you remain. They all will become old like a garment, and like a mantle you will roll them up. Like a garment, they will also be changed, but you are the same." And so even if our bodies didn't wear out, the universe would, the earth would. And so we would know that life as we know it would be temporary, if no other reason than for that. And, we don't really, even if the scriptures didn't say these particular statements, we know that things are temporary, and even more temporary than just being temporary as far as the grand scope of things, like with the earth or with our bodies. We know that situations in our lives are temporary. We perhaps remember seasons that we've gone through in the past that came and went. And this can have a positive result and a negative result in our lives. First, we'll talk about the negative or the unpleasant result of this. The unpleasant result is knowing that the good times are temporary. As we encounter perhaps times of enjoyment, times when we have perhaps our friends around, or we think about the times when we have our family around, or times when we have good health and things are going well, we all know in the back of our minds that all that is temporary. We know that one day we'll have to say goodbye to our friends and to our loved ones in death, whether it's because they die or because we die. We also know that our good health won't always be with us as we age. The good times are temporary, and that's a very unpleasant fact. And it kind of dampens the good times a little bit when we know that, hey, I'm having a good time, I'm enjoying life, but I know that it won't last. That one day the darkness will find me one way or the other. And so that's the unpleasant way to look at the temporary nature of the various circumstances we find ourselves in. But the positive way is to look at it in light of the fact that the hard times are temporary. When we enter into those hard times, the difficult times, we can go into them confident in the fact that they're not going to last forever. And that's when people really get despairing, is when they feel like, when they enter into a dark time in their life, when they feel like there's no escape, then hopelessness sets in and they begin to despair of life. But we got to remember that even the hard times are temporary. And that's brought out in our reading today in Psalm 30. In Psalm 30, in verse 5, it says, "Weeping may last for the night, but a shout of joy comes in the morning." Just as the nighttime is temporary, when we go to bed at night and it's dark, we're pretty confident that if the Lord doesn't come again, that we will wake up to the sunrise and that dawn will come. That nighttime is just a temporary experience. And the same thing is true with the hardships in life. When we enter into those dark moments of life, we know that they're just temporary. We know that we're only experiencing them for a certain amount of time. The psalmist, David, had experienced this personally. He's speaking from experience when he makes that statement we just read. He references this in verses 11 and 12 of Psalm 30, where he says, "You have turned for me my mourning into dancing," speaking to the Lord here. "You have loosed my sackcloth and girded me with gladness, that my soul may sing praise to you and may not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thanks to you forever." So David had some pretty rough times in his life, but the Lord brought him through them all, and he was able to see the joy on the other side. He was able to turn or experience the mourning turning into dancing, the sackcloth being turned into garments of gladness. David saw that the situations he was in were temporary, that the darkness just lasted through the night, but the joy came in the morning, or weeping was in the night, the joy came in the morning. And so here we're reading from a person who had experience, and we know that from experience too. We know that the things are temporary that we experience in this life. Now, it doesn't mean that the pain's going to be any less. It doesn't mean that the situation is not going to be any less harder just because it's temporary. I want to make that point. Doesn't mean that, I can just think of it being temporary, then all of a sudden it's not that bad. It's not that it becomes less painful or less difficult in the sense of the situation that you're in, but it just kind of changes our mindset and our attitude towards those hardships. If we enter into them as though we will never escape, as though it's just hopeless and there is no light at the end of the tunnel, then we'll not fare very well in the darkness. But when we say, you know what, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. As a matter of fact, there's a light in the tunnel, the Lord himself, who will see me through the darkness. And yes, it is hard. Yes, it is difficult. I don't gloss over how difficult this experience is that I'm having, but I know that it's temporary and I'm going to push through. And I want to see the other side of this. I want to see what the Lord turns this into. And I want to be able to experience that and rejoice in that on the other side. And so it just changes our mindset in the way that we encounter these various difficult situations. And so Psalm 30 is a great resource for us in helping us to know and to remember that when we enter those hard times, there is another side to them. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and the Lord will help us to see that light, whether it happens within our lifetime or it happens in death. One way or the other, these things will be temporary, and then we'll be able to enjoy the blessing of having the Lord deliver us, being able to experience the other side, and the joy that comes from it, and especially in death, when we see the Lord in his glory, when the true dawn arises, and we're able to see the Lord in his glory and to share in his bliss forever and ever. Then we'll look back on this life and say, the weeping just lasted for the night, but boy, the joy has come with the dawn. And so let's be encouraged by that today. With that, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.